Salcedo's show has been focused on governments in various states violating their own election laws in 2020's election. Still, others have been focused on revealing and proving voter fraud. A constant refrain from the left has been there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud in 2020's election. That might be changing. Let's welcome in John Lott. He is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. He was a senior advisor for research and statistics at the U.S. Department of Justice's office of legal policy, and he worked on voter fraud issues. Sir, welcome. You and I talked extensively on the Salcedo Storm podcast, 40-minute podcast. You were quick to point out that your aim in your peer-reviewed research was not to relitigate the 2020 election. What was your goal?
My goal is to find out what might have gone wrong so that people can go and fix those things in the future. I think it will be devastating to people's confidence in the elections if we don't understand what happened and make it possible for us to make sure that those types of things don't happen again.
According to your peer-reviewed research published in the journal Public Choice, you found evidence of around 255,000 excess votes, possibly as many as 368,000 for Joe Biden in 6 swing states. What was the main cause of this, according to your research?
Well, I think there are multiple things that are going on. You have issues with regard to absentee ballots. In some places, you have issues with regard to provisional ballots, rules not being followed. But I think the big problem that you have in this past election was just the huge number of mail-in ballots that you had. I mean, you had everything from vote harvesting to not checking signatures as you would normally do. And there are certain places in the country where you had large increases in turnout, and those happened to be the places where there were allegations of fraud occurring.
Yeah, Dinesh D'Souza has a documentary coming out that may buttress some of your research. Meantime, Andrew Eggers from the University of Chicago, he's not happy with your research. Here's what he said about your findings. Quote, Lott's 2022 analysis is riddled with errors and fails to accurately report the research that was conducted. At several points, the paper misstates the regression specification being used as we confirmed through replicating Lott's 2022 results, misreports regression coefficients, always in a direction favorable to his argument, and incorrectly reports variables used to produce a result. After correcting these errors, we show Lott's 2022 analysis fails to provide any evidence of voter fraud in the 2020 election. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, look, I understand this is a pretty emotional issue for a lot of people. And just the tone of that piece, I think, illustrates that. Look, I didn't speak out on this issue until my paper had gone through refereeing at a journal, which basically lasted 14 months. It was a very long process. These guys' work hasn't gone through the same type of refereeing process that mine went through. And, I think they've made some mistakes in what they've done. And, we'll see what happens. But I've responded to the journal, sent in my comments. They make it sound as if they're really just replicating my research, and that's not what they're doing. They have the reason why they don't get as a strong result with regard to the counties where fraud is occurring is because they're also controlling for other things that also measure fraud, such as they're related to it. So, for example, a number of Indian, Native American counties had real issues in this past election. So if you also control for that, it makes it hard to distinguish between the two effects that you're looking at. But I think the bottom line is that my work stands up well, and we'll see whether they can make it through the refereeing process themselves.
Right. And Dr. Lott, was there one point that they made that you may have looked at and said, well, maybe they had a point that I could have been clearer, or I could have been, or maybe I could have been tighter in my methodology? Anything like that come across your desk when you saw their analysis of your work?
Right. I mean, there was one table in particular, table 9 in the paper, that I acknowledge I made a mistake. That basically what happens is it went from being statistically significant in showing fraud to still showing fraud but not being statistically significant. And you fix that and you move on with regard to it. But
All right.
but I think
All
overall,
right, very good. Dr. John Lott, sir, appreciate it. We're just plumb out of time here. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Come back soon.